Hi everyone. So since we are not having class today in the 1 o'clock class, I wanted to go ahead and explain to you what it is we're talking about in the 8 o'clock class. And for anyone who happens to miss the morning, you now have the lecture and the notes and the tasks. So we're going to try to get these things accomplished here. I'm just going to mention the checklist. We're not actually going to do anything with that in class. So that is on announcements. You should have seen it already, and we talked about it in your individual mid-semester meetings if you've had those with me. Next thing is we're going to move away from rhetorical analysis to argument. So that's the topic of today's class, and you will be choosing topics on your own this week so that I can assign them officially next Tuesday. So to start, we need to talk about what is an argument and what is not an argument for purposes of this class. When you think of what an argument is, you probably immediately start thinking about people arguing, and that is not what we are doing in this class. It's really difficult not to get super passionate and polarizing about topics that you're very interested in or that you care about. So I have to teach you how to do that academically, while at the same time still remaining passionate and persuasive. So an argument is a focused position on a particular topic. It's not an opinionated rant. An argument is balanced, which means that it has multiple viewpoints, not just one opinion. So this is very different than the rhetorical analysis. We actually have to state a thesis, so whatever it is that your point is, that's your opinion, but then you have to also research multiple viewpoints on the same topic that may be different, either completely different or slightly different than your own. So it cannot be one-sided, and we're going to attempt to remove our own bias, which is really difficult. So you have to really examine what that bias is. By the way, if you can hear something crazy in the background, that is my 11-year-old beagle snoring. So the other thing is, like I said, it's really difficult not to get kind of riled up, so to speak, when you get into these topics. So we have to figure out how to remain respectful and academic in tone. While this is your opinion, it's not a personal piece. So a lot of you struggle with not writing the way that you speak. So I'm going to have to really show you how that's done well. We're going to avoid, obviously, hateful and discriminatory tone because those alienate your audience. Not only is that just bad, it shuts people down from the very beginning. So it's not effective for people who don't believe you, who are not on your side. Politicians could absolutely take a lesson from our class. An argument is supported by solid research-based evidence. You have got to use databases and online sources that are ethical, that are true, fact-based, evidence-based, peer-reviewed. We're going to talk about what that means after you do the online learning module, which I'll talk about in a second. Whereas the other papers that you've done, you are not allowed to use outside sources. So you could not go to the databases, you could not go to Google, you could not cite any other source other than the original source. An argument is based on your facts and your opinions and other people's opinions, but it is not based solely on opinion. So I kind of covered that already with balanced and supported, but just so that we're clear, it does include both fact and opinion, just cannot only be about your opinion. You maybe have heard somebody tell you in a little bit harsher way that we don't care about your opinion unless it's backed up with facts. And that might sound a little harsh, but it's actually very true. An argument is persuasive and passionate. If you don't care about the topic, then it's going to be very clear. It's going to be a very boring paper for me to read, and it's not going to be particularly persuasive. When I read it, I should be thinking to myself, man, I really think this person is right. Or I should at least see your point and see how you are very passionate about the topic. It should not, however, be illogical and unconvincing. That is not effective. So once you have picked a topic, and I'll show you a list in a second, but once you pick a topic, which is a big, broad idea, you have to think about what question do you want to ask. So the questions have to be a certain kind of question or they won't lead you anywhere with your research. So, first of all, they must be open questions. That means that you can't answer them with a yes or a no. They have to require some explanation. Also, they have to have multiple potential answers and should have many different viewpoints. There's very little in this world that has a one answer and not multiple shades of meaning, if you will. We'll talk about this in class more, but you cannot do a well-researched argument when you have only like one or two points of view on the whole thing. It just doesn't provide you much to analyze or research and think about, and it also just isn't true. There really aren't any issues for argument that don't have multiple viewpoints. They shouldn't be then closed questions, so answered with one or two words. And they also can't have one distinct answer or use judgment. So you can't be saying things like, well, should anybody be doing this stupid thing? Okay, you can't put your judgment into your question because then you're only going to get search results based on your side of the story. This is going to be a little different than what you're used to. Normally, I say to you, what is your opinion? What is your point? You write the thesis, and then you go research it to back it up. We're not doing that. We're choosing a topic that you care about, that you're interested in, and we're figuring out what question you have, then going to figure out answers to the question. You will then formulate your thesis. Because you may think you know what you believe, but once you read some things, you might change your mind. If not entirely, maybe a little bit. So that said, we then look at a couple of examples, and these are silly, but they will serve as examples. So the first one, say my topic was taxation. So should Americans pay sales tax on groceries? That is perfectly acceptable. I do not see any judgment in there, no words to lead me to think what you actually believe the answer to that question is. And you could certainly research this. Notice it doesn't say, should anyone pay sales tax? I'm talking about just Americans. You could even narrow that down to Kentuckians because some states have different rules on sales tax and each state determines its own sales tax level, sometimes even cities. But the next one is unacceptable, and I think you can see why. Should Americans pay the ridiculous sales taxes imposed on them? So not only is it not specific to what kind of sales tax, but it's also using a judgment word, which is a negative adjective. So your first task is to fill out the survey for your class. The morning class is going to be doing this one, and which is your class title 101-27. The PM class is going to be doing this one, which is your section 101-69. You should be able to click that and go to a Google form, which I'm going to do here so you can see what it looks like. Here's the form. You just fill in the answers. And when you're finished with that, you're going to hit submit, and I will see all of the choices. The PM class has an extra question in here just to make sure you're reading everything and watching the video. The AM class is going to have lecture, so I know that they're getting the information. Oh, go back, sorry. This is the list of topics. Now, I determined this after surveying 2 classes that aren't at U of L on the same subject. We're going to talk more about it in the morning and at the 8 a.m. class, so we might see some added to this list by the time you watch this video. If you think of something that's not on here, totally fine. You can put that on the survey. But if you can't think of anything, you need to choose your top 3 from this list and put those on the survey and explain why you want to talk about them. Then create a question for each one of them. Again, this is all done on the Google Forms survey, which is these links here. After you do that, your second task is to click on Assignments on Blackboard, which I'm going to get out of here and show you exactly how to do. When you click on Assignments, you see the online learning module. Read it. It talks to you about what you're going to do, And then right here, you click this link and you actually go to the website for the library. Now, let me tell you this. You want to choose that you're on campus because it's going to prompt you to log in, and that's going to help you be on the right network and blah, blah, blah. Even if you're not on campus, please choose that. We've been having some issues with it, so if you, not with completing it, but with choosing the wrong location and it limiting what you're doing. So if you have any trouble with it, screenshot what you don't understand and send that to me in a message so that I will know what you're talking about. I have not completed it as a student, so there may be some questions, but it's pretty straightforward. I did go ahead and register and start looking at it as a student, and it seemed pretty straightforward and intuitive to me. But if you get stuck for some reason, screenshot it, send me a message, tell me what's going on, and we'll go from there. So here are some instructions about what to do on that. When you're finished with that, though, you have to actually click this, which is green online learning module. Remember, this is an assignment. Click this when you're done with the online module. Go down to the bottom and type, I completed the module, period. Then you go down to the bottom and you hit submit. I'm not going to do that because for obvious reasons. When you're done, I will see that you're finished, and then I will also get a report from the librarian that you have finished. So don't get any ideas about hitting submit even though you haven't watched it. Further, you have a follow-up assignment that requires you to use what you learned to do something. So I'm going to know whether you did it or not. Not that I have to worry about that with you lovely people, but I'm just letting you know in full transparency that I can tell whether or not you did it. What is argument is after you're finished, you're going to actually be looking at an argument. So in the book, your textbook, the good old textbook we haven't seen in weeks, there's an article called Is Google Making Us Stupid? And it's a little bit longer because this argument project is not going to be a one-page essay. It's going to be a project. So I don't know how many pages, so don't ask me. I'll figure that out later. But for now, read this article and determine what his argument is and how he supports it. You're going to write that down and have it ready for class. At the end of the article, there are 3 questions. One of the questions, number 3, says to write an essay. Of course, you're not going to write an essay. I don't want to read that. You are going to actually use the databases after you've done the module and find 2 sources that have to do with internet use effects on cognition, which again, you're going to know what I'm talking about when you look at number 3 on page 424. Find 2 sources that have something to do with that. Give me a couple sentences summary and tell me what those sources are called, and then have that ready for class. So you're going to answer 1 and 2 and then actually do the research for number 3. You're not going to submit that online. You're going to bring it to class next week. So, due dates coming up. Sunday, you need to turn in your final draft of the rhetorical analysis if you have not already done so. This is, of course, by 11:59 p.m. Complete the online learning module assignment, which is also on Blackboard. I just showed you. Do the survey for the argument topics. And then by Tuesday, read the article in the book and complete the tasks on the previous slide. If you have questions after you have looked at this and asked your peers, then you can email me or text through Remind. I will be teaching teachers all day, Friday and Saturday, and or be on a plane, but I usually have either my phone or my laptop with me. So I can answer you, but I can't promise you it'll be right then in that moment. So I think that's it. Have a good weekend.